Welcome to A Quest for Metal. Today we got a juicy one, we got a fun one, we got one that's gonna tickle your bollocks, and we're doing the top 5 most disappointing albums by bands we like. And we're joined by a special guest. Say hello, Trenches.
Hey there, metal and heavy music fans, it's Flight of Icarus, and it's an honor to be here today on Quest for Metal. And hey, if you're looking for even more underground metal recommendations, tier list, band interviews, you can follow my channel at Metal Trenches. And between you and me, fuck this weirdo, right? I'll bet that accent isn't even real. In any case, I had a lot of albums that came to mind for this list, but ultimately I narrowed it down to the ones that I had the highest expectations for going in, and left me feeling the most burned as a result.
Disappointed!
These are the albums that still leave me with a sour taste in my mouth to this day.
You know, when the Phantom of the Opera tells you that you're weird, you must be doing something right. But before we get started with our list, put yours down in the comments below. What's your most disappointing albums? What albums made you fucking pissed off? What albums made you want to just pull your eyes out and swing them around like Ebolas? Bowlers? Or Ebolas? Ebolas is the fucking disease. We don't need a new disease. We do not need a new fucking disease. But yeah, pop them down below and let's get started with Trenches number 5.
Alright, for my first pick, this is the most recent album on this list. It is Anal Nothrak with A New Kind of Horror. I loved The Whole of the Law, and I've got a new album review coming out with the new Anal Nothrak, and I get into this there too, but man, that album was just incredible, and it left me with just sky-high expectations. If you ask me, that is the best thing that this band has ever done. The symphonics, the just drama of it, the compositions, stunning. Just the chef's kiss, if you will. So then I knew a new album was coming out, and I was like, oh man, how are they going to top The Whole of the Law? And the answer to that question is, they didn't. If you ask me, they went from their best album to their probably worst album. It's just not a good album. There's a lot wrong with it. The compositions are just kind of generic and boring, especially when you're comparing them to the album that came before. It's just not very interesting, and I remember people were even like making jokes about how they had like the machine gun fire sound in one of the songs. It was one of the lead singles, and people were like, what the fuck is this edgy shit? Like, that was actually one of the songs that I was okay with ultimately, but listening to this album, I really wanted to like it. I listened to it over and over again and just was trying to force myself to enjoy it. And it's by no means a bad album. Like, a lot of the albums on this list are not really terrible albums by any stretch of the word. Some of them are. We'll get to those. But this is not one of those albums. It's fine. It's just kind of like a C-level album. Very average. Nothing special about it. But again, like, I was just very disappointed because of the album that came before.
So yeah, I kind of agree with his sentiment and his statement on the Anal Nothrak album. It is one of the weakest. I still really enjoy it. So like you said, it'd be like a mid-tier album, like a C-tier album. I still enjoy it. I think Forward is a fucking amazing song. Some people don't like that because it's a bit too catchy and it has that machine gun riff, but I love that song. I love that song. And New Bethlehem is awesome, but Obscene as Cancer is cool, but the rest, yeah. So yeah, I agree with him. It's not terrible. I still really enjoy it, but it's not the best. So good job. My number 5 is from one of my favorite bands of all time, the band that got me into extreme music. It's Cradle of Filth, and the album Mathcore and Other Horrors. This is the only album in their discography that I just don't like. It's the only one that disappointed me, and I was really looking forward to it because I loved Darkly Venus Versa. Some people don't, but I love the symphonic shit. I love the gothic shit. I love how over the top it is. Same Godspeed. I'm half and half on, but I still really like that one as well. This one though, Mathcore and Other Horrors, I don't know what happened. It felt like they were trying to go too punky, too just intense the entire way through, and I don't want that with Cradle of Filth. I do not want that. I listen to Anal Nothrak if I want that. I listen to like grindcore. Doesn't work with Cradle. You know, I want the gothic shit. You know, I want Nymphetamine. I want Cruelty and the Beast. I want all these amazing gothic black metal songs, if you want to call them black metal. Extreme metal then, I guess. But yeah, I love that kind of flair with Cradle, and this album just lacked it. It lacked the fucking flair. It lacked the Cradle heart, and I respect them for trying it though. I'm not going to bash the album too much because they did try something new, didn't work, and they went back to the old roots on the next couple of albums, which were way fucking better. But this one just doesn't do anything for me. So it disappointed me, hurt me inside. Love Cradle to bits, but this one, nah. So let's move on to your number 4.
All right, next up, this was a pretty big one for me because probably one of my top 3 favorite bands of all time, and definitely my favorite melodic death metal band of all time, is Dark Tranquility. And the album in question here is Construct. I have loved Dark Tranquility since I was in high school. I've talked about them quite a bit on my channel, and they're just amazing. Like the riffs, the vocals, just everything they've done. They've had some missteps here and there. They've had albums that are better than others, but I just was on a high point with them over the years, and I was excited when Construct was coming out because it had been a little while since we'd heard new Dark Tranquility. And, you know, a favorite band, you're going to get your expectations up there. And then this album dropped, and it's just okay. It's another one where it's not a bad album. It's grown on me over time, but considering what I wanted out of them and what we got, it's just, it's not one of their better albums. In fact, I believe on my tier list, I ranked it pretty darn low. And that's largely because the riffs are just missing on this album. It has a lot of mood, a lot of atmosphere. It's very somber. And so it's just kind of a different type of album. But when I come to Dark Tranquility, I want those amazing Gothenburg riffs that we've come to expect from them. And they're just nowhere to be found. There's like nary a hook on that album, save for a few. And so it just leaves me feeling cold most of the time, but I'll throw it on here and there if I just am going through their discography, and I can find some appreciation for it.
Yeah, I don't mind Dark Tranquility's Construct that much. I think it's an alright album. It's not one of the best, I'll agree with that, but I think it's fine. I think it's a fine album. My number 4 is Slipknot, 5 The Grey Chapter. This one, I don't know. A lot of people didn't like All Hope Is Gone. And I think All Hope Is Gone is pretty damn fantastic. Sulphur's amazing. Psychosocial, amazing. Butcher's Hook. There's a lot. All Hope Is Gone. There's a lot of great songs in that album. On 0.5 The Great Chapter, there's barely fucking any. I did a song ranking for Slipknot, and a lot of the ones from this album are kind of low down because they're just not as memorable. Like, none of the songs on this album are as fucking good as any of the ones in All Hope Is Gone. You can fight me all day on that. None of the fucking songs. Pick any song from that album, and any song from All Hope Is Gone kicks the shit out of it. It just fucking does. And I was kind of like, I'm done with Slipknot now. Slipknot's fucking dead to me. Fuck Slipknot. Fuck them in their stupid asses. But then, the newest album came out, and it's like one of my favourites. So when I redo Slipknot, it might become number 1, because I fucking adore that new album. But Grey Chapter 100% disappointed me. Still don't like it that much. It's the only one in the catalogue which disappointed me that much, so let's go in here.
All right, here's the one. Here is an album on this list that is just, I feel like, objectively a bad album. But, you know, everybody has their own tastes, and I know plenty of people who defend this one. It is Behemoth with I Loved You at Your Darkest. Now, similar to my experience with Nothrak, I fucking loved The Satanist. That is the best Behemoth album. You can fight me. I know some people talk about how overrated it is, but it's up there. Like, it is just pretty much a perfect album. And this is not. This is not a perfect album. So coming off of The Satanist, I remember Nurgle was even talking about like hanging it up and saying that, you know, let's just call it quits for Behemoth. And I thought that was a great idea, honestly. Like, I would have loved that. I love when bands go out at the top of their game. That would have been the perfect swan song. So for them to come back and say, oh, we're writing another album, and have it just be, again, their worst album. It is like, it's terrible. This is like, this is a god awful Hot Topic tier album. But again, like after The Satanist, I was like, well, they can't possibly fuck this up, right? Like they're at the top of their game. So clearly it probably won't be as good as The Satanist, but you know, it'll be great. And it's just not. This is so bad. The lyrics are just so cringy. There's a lot like I like choir, and I like when they do like kid choir parts on certain albums, but the implementation of them here is just really corny. And again, every aspect of this just, it makes me like clench my butthole just thinking about how bad some of the moments are. There are some high points here and there that are decent, but even the best songs on this album can't come close to this amazing discography they have in terms of solid albums and amazing tracks. Like, none of these songs can crack even probably like the top 50 Behemoth songs of all time. If you feel differently, let me know down in the comments, but I'm not changing my mind on this one.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about this album. I don't want to fucking talk about it. This killed Disturbed for me. And Immortalized almost killed it for me. They started going a bit too soft, a bit too poppy with the Simon and Garfunkel cover. And that gained them so many new fans, so much more popularity. And with that, they decided to ching 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 ching. Let's just do a whole fucking album of that. Let's just make the whole, well, half of fucking Evolution ballads and shit so we can get more money. We want more money. And I fucking hate it. I hate it. Feels like a corporate album. Don't like anything in. There's no heart in this album. There's no fucking heart in this album. It's soulless, money-grubbing nonsense. And fuck them for doing it. Fuck everyone who likes that album. Fucking burn, all of you, in a fire, in the burning fires of hell. And I'll join you. I'll join you. Because I'm 100% going there. 100%. We'll have a nice little vacation. We'll have a nice little vacation in some sulfur pits. I'll get some, like, sulfur cocktail and I'll just chill. And while Satan's fucking fingering our assholes. That's a big-ass finger if I'm doing that. But yeah, fuck this album. Fuck this album. Fuck this album. Disturbed's dead to me. Fuck this album. Fuck this album. So yeah, what's your number 2?
All right, this was a big comeback album disappointment for me. There have been a lot of comeback albums lately, and most of them I've been pleasantly surprised with how good they are. But for the Mathcore fans out there, this is the number 12 Looks Like You with Wild Gods. This is like my Mathcore band. Like, I love the Dillinger Escape Plan, but there's something special about the number 12 Looks Like You that you can't match with any other band in the genre. They've got this just particular style. They've got this kind of niche quality to them. They just feel a little bit more personal. Like, everybody knows the Dillinger Escape Plan, but not everybody knows the number 12 Looks Like You. And their farewell album, Worse Than Alone, is just one of my all-time favorite records. Start to finish, so powerful, so many amazing moments on it. On my Mathcore for Dummies video, I raved about this album for good reason, and so to hear that after so many years, they were coming back and they were going to make a new album, you better believe I was excited. And I tried to keep my expectations low because I know how that can go sometimes, but even so, I went into this thing really hoping for something great. The lead single was pretty solid, and so again, my expectations rose a little bit more, and then I listened to the whole thing, and it was just a huge letdown for me. I even did a whole episode talking about this with Carson from the Callous Dow Boys, and even though he defended it a lot, I could tell in his voice that ultimately, like, there was some feeling there of just wanting something more, something different. If this had been an album that had been released under a completely different name as a different project, I might have liked it more, but it just, to me, was missing those, like, core the number 12 qualities. And again, the riffs are just missing. This is a very guitar-driven band that is known for wavering between kind of like jazz and post-metal, and then always having these like intense eruptions of mathy technical guitar work. And the latter is just almost absent on this album. It is a very chill album, and I kind of get that, like, a lot of times, you know, bands get older, they mature, they go into kind of a more of a chill phase, and that's fine, but it's just not what I want from the number 12.
So yeah, I'm not really familiar with this band. I'm not familiar with a lot of Mathcore in general. It's not really a genre that I go to very often, so I'll just take your word for that one. So yeah, no complaints here, because I don't fucking know them. So my number 2, similar to Disturbed, Siren Charms by In Flames. Siren Charms. I could have put the Clayman remaster on here, because that was just an abortion. But this disappointed me. I fucking loved Sounds of Playground Fading, and I loved The Sense of Purpose. Loads of people hate that. It's one of my favourite In Flames albums, so fuck you. And also, Jester Race is one of my favourite albums, if not my favourite album of all time. And Clayman's amazing, Colony's amazing, Horacle's amazing, Lunar Strain's amazing. They had so many good albums. I even like the newer shit. But Siren Charms came out and I bought it with my friend. We were going to some city. Went to the HMV or whatever. Bought Siren Charms. Went back to our place. Popped it on. fucking awful. Fucking awful. Luckily, we bought other CDs. I bought Epica's The Quantum Enigma. Put that on right after. I blew the fucking turd off the side of the counter. Fuck Siren Charms. Epica. So glad Epica. So glad I bought Epica's album. Because that was just so much better than whatever the fuck Siren Charms was. Because it's just poppy nonsense, kind of like Evolution, not as insultingly bad, but more boring. It's just a fucking boring, dull shell of an album. It's a shell of an album. And luckily Battles is a bit better. And Eye the Mask is really good. I love Eye the Mask. But Siren Charms can fucking burn. Again, throw that in the fire alongside Evolution, and everyone will have a grand gay old time.
And last but not least, those of you who follow my channel, you may have already guessed what this one's going to be because I can't stop talking about it, unfortunately. And part of me even wanted to leave it out because I've mentioned it so many times, but it has to be number one. It is Deftones with Gore. I am a long-time OG Deftones fan, been listening since way back in the day. Fucking love White Pony, love Around the Fur, and love really everything that they put out. I had some level of disappointment with the self-titled, but that one's grown on me, and every single subsequent album has had something that connected with me and made me keep going back to it to re-experience at least portions of it. But not this time. Like, this album, again, this is like one of my all-time favorite bands going way, way back, and so of course I'm going to be excited about a new album coming out from Deftones, as I kind of am right now, but I'm a little bit hesitant too, because now I've been burned. But yeah, Gore came out, and it was another one that I tried to force myself to like. I tried so hard, guys. Like, seriously. I listened to this thing so many times in a row, and then took breaks and came back to it, took like a year off, came back to it. I still come back to it this day, hoping that I'll realize I was just temporarily insane and was wrong about it, but it just never clicks. This is just a dull, overly, again, kind of chill, wafty, like, it feels more like just like a Chino record, which kind of makes sense because I know there was some disagreement between Chino and Steven. Like, I've come to realize over the years, I'm definitely more a Stephen Carpenter fan than a Chino fan. Even though I love Chino's vocals, Steven is what drives the heavy side of their albums, and I think him and I are much more on the same page of what we want a Deftones album to sound like. And this was just not that. Like, it feels like you go to the beach and you're like, you're in the sun and the waves, and like there's a time and place for that, but Deftones just ain't it. Like, I want those classic Stephen Carpenter heavy riffs mixed in there with the more post-metal elements, the more lofty elements. I love the dynamics of this band, but this is not a dynamic record. It is severely lacking in the heavy parts and just not really any hooks again, not really anything that sticks with me. It's just, I get bored. And I'm sorry if you feel differently, but again, that's just my opinion.
So, Deftones, I probably should have known because they are like one of your favorite bands, so good pick. For me, the album that disappointed me the most happens to also be one of my favorite bands of all time. Prog metal, and it's not Opeth, it's the other one. It's Dream Theater. The Astonishing. I was so disappointed with this album. So disappointed. I don't give a fuck about rock operas. I don't like how long this album is. I don't like how there's no epic songs on this album. When I'm listening to Dream Theater, I want some guitar wankery. I want some 20-minute long songs like Count Tuscany or Octavarium, Change of Seasons, Ministry of Lost Souls. I could literally name off hundreds of amazing long Dream Theater songs. This has none. This is fucking none. So that it's already down in my books. It's already down. And just the whole concept of it, the story, I don't care about. I don't care about stories in fucking albums. I want music. I want it to sound good, and it doesn't sound good. Gift of Music's alright. The singles were good. Heard them live. They were still pretty good, but like, God, some of the songs are so cheesy on this fucking album. Lord and Farius, like, what is going on? It just sounds like a pantomime. I don't like musicals. I don't like rock operas. I fucking hate this album. It's awful. It's one of the worst things ever created. I fucking hate it. I hate it, and I love every single Dream Theater album. I love the first album. I think Charlie's vocals are amazing. I'd listen to that a million times, then listen to The Astonishing again. And I've heard The Astonishing 3 times. And I almost turned it off on the 3rd listen. I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot fucking do this. I pity anyone who had to sit through that, like Sea of Tranquility did, had to sit through that live. Like, fucking imagine listening to that live. I'd shoot myself in the head. I'd 100% just fucking kill myself. Fuck that album. I don't like it. It was the most disappointing album for me, and it will always be the most disappointing album for me, because Dream Theater is godlike. Godlike. This album is shit. Luckily, the next album, Distance Over Time, is a bloody masterpiece. They have some amazing songs. They have some long songs on it, the 2, 9-minute ones. Fucking amazing. And they got some catchy short songs, so it doesn't need to be long to be good. They've got catchy fucking short songs, like S2N with the fucking bass. Every song on the new album kicks the shit out of any song on The Astonishing. So that's my rant over for that, and it's my most disappointing album of all time. Now it's time for the Phantom of the Opera to fuck off.
And that's it, y'all. Those are my 5 most disappointing metal albums of all time. But thanks again to Quest for Metal for putting this together and including me here. I would love to do a part 2 if you all think that we should.
Begone, foul demon! Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Again, put down in the comments below what disappointed you. What disappointed you? What gave you heartburn? What musical albums gave you heartburn and wanted to make you strangle yourself with your own intestines? Let me know down below, and we'll see you again in another Quest for Metal.